Hi, Dennis Weiss. Welcome to our town. We're at our favorite place to shoot our towns, which is the Community Foundation of Dickinson County, with a lovely sign behind us to prove that. In Abilene, moving forward, it changes every 30 seconds, you see. So we have a great place to shoot. I have a very brand new thing for you to learn about today. New Horizon Hemp. Tina Kelly, Jeff Wilkins, I'm ready to learn about New Horizon Hemp. Where are we starting?
Boy, go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess our adventure started in 2017.
Okay.
And we kept seeing articles regarding hemp.
They were everywhere.
They were. Yeah. Newspapers, and we kind of mentioned it and put it on the back burner. Mm-hmm. Well, it just kept popping up. So we were like, well, maybe this is something we should look into. Something new. I had been using essential oils for a few years at that point, and to help with some issues that I was having, and found it beneficial. And so we decided we were going to start researching. Kansas Department of Agriculture decided that 2019 was going to be a research year. So we started attending meetings, finding out what we needed to do. Pre-applications, jumping through a lot of hoops.
Yeah, so
a lot of hoops.
We're going to try our best to stack the silos of this industry up, and the first one I'm just going to tackle for you is regulation. This is none of this would be possible without the state of Kansas and the legislature going through a lot of processes to legalize growing of hemp for certain uses, and the rules are massive.
Yes.
But they're getting better every time the legislature meets.
Yes, they are. And they're changing. They are. They're changing, and quite frequently.
That's one silo. The other silo is this is farming. We're planting seeds in dirt, we're growing crops, we're harvesting them, turning them into beneficial use. Straight up farming. The third silo I see is that, we don't use much corn or wheat for medicinal purposes.
No.
You mentioned the use of essential oils. I've used a lot of essential oils, but you're going to laugh. To me, absorbing is an essential oil. If you look on the little label, there are oils in it, but absorbing's horse liniment, Tina. I can see what's he talking about in your eyes there. But horse liniment has for years been an essential oil to make people feel better, make their horses feel better, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know that everybody knows about the direct connection to the 1920s and 30s in Kansas growing hemp and where we are today. So who wants to tell me about it?
Well,
Jeff's up.
From where we are today, boy, we're at the beginning of something brand new. I mean, yes, I understand that it's been around, and when we did grow it back then, I mean, we did well. So it's something new. It's something it's hard to get good information about what is the best way to farm it. Right. So that's where actually doing it this year and getting our hands dirty, it's been very rewarding because it is more of a non-traditional kind of farming because it's all done by hand. Right. I think there's equipment out there on the market. But there's a pretty hefty price tag with all that. Mm-hmm. So getting out and I think doing it the way we've done it, that we've chose to do it, we were on a very, very limited budget.
Sure.
So we've just done it. We've successfully
hands-on.
We worked with two farmers this year, Mark Swanson and Mark Miller, north of Chapman, and Mark Swanson was a neighbor of ours. We planted 10 acres. Mm-hmm.
The great floods of 2019.
Well, planted 10 acres twice, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Welcome to farming, Jeff.
Boy, I'll tell you, and boy, it's been Mark Miller, bless his heart, as I'm calling him in, panicking, saying it's not raining, here we are. We ended up getting our second crop in the ground. I do landscaping for a living currently, and ended up using my grass seed planter.
Yeah. I think
And with her on the back,
There
dropping
you
the
go.
seeds in the hole.
Done that myself, not with hemp, but other things.
And that was July 3rd.
Yeah.
So that's very late for hemp. I mean, traditionally, we would like to see hemp or for next year, we're going to hope 1st of May have the seed in the ground.
So this is for the benefit of the people in the camera, because like I said, we're talking about farming.
Right.
Okay? This happened to all scale of farmers this year.
Oh, you bet.
They planted beans twice too. You know, they right now few people have planted wheat twice this fall because of just, hey, that's farming. It's just farming. So I'm trying to make the connection with the viewer is hemp farming is just farming. In that sense, it's just farming. It's a different crop,
Correct.
different purposes, but it's just farming. So as trying to understand what these people are talking to us about, the first thing you know, it's just farming.
Yeah.
It's a new crop. So I read both some of the stuff in the public domain and a note that Tina sent me, and I had to chuckle, even though, you know, it's on your misery. I chuckle. So seed depth planting, yeah, that has to be learned at the ground you're planting it in. You can't pull that out of Wikipedia, right?
Yes,
This plant will have a preference for its depth in your soil, and you'll have to learn what that is.
Very shallow.
Yes, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's neat because all the basic rules of farming, I mean, apply here.
Yeah.
You know, it's just more old school farming, I think I like to consider it. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with putting a hard day's worth of work out there, you know.
So way back when hemp was grown all over the place, most of that went to fiber. Today's hemp is going to oil. most of
Correct.
it. So,
Yeah, CBD oil.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, Tina briefly mentioned, you know, the oil part of it, and then we've, since we've been involved in this, we've heard all these positive things about the CBD oil, and I mean, it's just kind of amazing to hear people tell their little story, because, so we've been very fortunate and that's when we decided that we wanted to get involved in that type of processing.
So who can tell me how you turn a plant about that tall and big bushy thing into oil about this big in a jar?
Solvent extraction
Okay.
is what
I was
we're
gonna
using.
say that
Okay.
We'll be extracting the CBD oil out of the floral material mainly,
Okay.
and then
Some of the
we'll
leaves.
recover the alcohol, you know, and be
Okay.
able to reuse it.
Okay.
So, not the most efficient way, but by golly, it's a way to get
How
started.
many ways are there?
Oh, there's many. I mean,
There's probably
new
a handful, I guess,
Yeah.
really.
There's new technologies happening all the time. Today, Tina forwarded me a thing on an extractor that's using water as the
Solvent.
extraction method. You know,
Water is a solvent, right?
yeah, so
It better
you know,
be, because I took
it's
a
something
shower.
new
and
we
it
haven't really
in there.
heard, we hadn't heard of, and you know, it's definitely something that we're going to need to look into.
Okay.
You know, it's amazing the people that we have contact with on a daily basis that have really supported us through this, and you know, helping research as much as we are, and constantly sending us articles and things to look at. Here, look at this, look at that. What do you think about, you know? So it's nice for the support and the interest that we are getting from those around us, and even some of those in the community that can't be involved in the growing or the processing part of it, but they want to help research it, and they want the knowledge that we're gaining from it. As far as the CBD itself, you know, or the hemp plant itself, what all can it be used for? And you know, when you start listing off these things, people are amazed at the uses. The
Well,
entire plant can be used.
We need to get back to basics. I mean, when you said, I mean, when it was grown before, it was for rope for World War II.
Right.
I mean,
rope and
just
jeans,
rope alone.
you know, clothing for the guys
Sure.
that were fighting.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
so-
a fabulous fiber.
Yes.
Yes, it is. So that's where, I mean, that's where we, the CBD thing, I think Kansas farmers and all the farmers in the United States. I mean, CBD will have a topping out point where it'll always
Sure.
be there, but it won't be the big hot seller that it is now.
So we had a little pre-conversation, about how things go in farming. And the American farmer always outproduces the marketplace.
Yes.
And thank God for the rest of the world we do.
Right.
Because our overproduction goes to feed the world. So that's all good. So this will happen in hemp as well. But having said that, many of the people who hear the word hemp think marijuana, and when they hear marijuana, think bad.
Correct.
So we're trying to present that in a different way.
Right.
Right. So not necessarily when they hear alcohol do they think bad, because you have all sorts of different uses for alcohol. Well, my absorbine I told you about.
Right.
You read the label on that. Alcohol is one of the things in there. The astringent portion of alcohol, it's evaporative, it cools
Right.
the leg off. So that is being used. We have a solid history in this country of figuring out how to use things to do good things with. This should not be any different.
No.
We
No.
should figure this out. If we can grow it, and in an arid land, what you can grow well should be important to us. If we can do this well for Kansas, if you love Kansas, if you love our agriculture base, we need to figure this out.
Right.
Best way to figure it out is find a couple suckers who want to try.
Yeah, and we're willing.
Exactly.
We made the decision. We're jumping in. I mean, wholeheartedly. I mean, we've got everything invested in this, and so we got our fingers crossed. It's a new adventure.
So, Tina, I want you to tell us, I know you have CBD stories, because if you're collecting all this information, you have stories from people who had radical changes in how good they feel by something they rubbed on their elbow. So I think it bridges the gap between people who think hemp marijuana
Right.
and trying to go, this is just an oil and it has properties that help us. So you have a story?
Well, first of all, the main difference between hemp and marijuana is the THC.
Right.
In
Chemical
CBD,
composition.
there is 0.3% or less. Anything that is sold in the state of Kansas now that is a consumable product has no THC in it
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
For me, a personal story that I have is I threw my back out. And for like 2 weeks, I couldn't move. I kept going to the chiropractor. She kept putting everything back in place, kept pulling it back out. And she gave me some topical ointment that was CBD, put it on me, sent me back to work, and within 15 minutes, I could move. It was amazing. Jeff, I'm going to let him take over because he's had contact with people here locally that have approached him since they found out that we were doing this and said, I am so glad you guys are doing this because this is my story with it.
You bet. No, I go down to a place and have coffee every morning and get gas and fill up for the day. And an older couple I've talked to quite frequently, she was telling me her story. 4 months ago, she started doing the CBD drops underneath the tongue. And prior to that, for the last 10 years, she has had no movement in her toes. And they have not been able to find anything that will fix it. And 4 months ago, she started having movement in her toes. And she is just in awe because now she has full movement.
Wow.
And all her balance issues are better. I mean, so
that's a big deal. So
and
movement, we can't stop with movement in the toes because,
Correct.
and you gave the whole story, but this is what I do. I flesh things out. Movement of the toes. That is the essential point of balance for older people.
Oh, you bet.
What you hear, what you touch, and the balance on your feet all comes from the toes. So if you can't move your toes, you're likely to fall. And as we age, when we fall, our health outcomes become very poor to fatal. fact.
Yeah.
Boy, you bet. No, and then I also had another gentleman when we first got involved that was from South Abilene, came up to me at a job site and told me his story. He was 85 years old and has been a farmer all his life and did very well for himself. And I think it had been 6 months that he had started doing the drops underneath the tongue. And he said he has never felt better. He wanted to plant some next year, you know. So, you know, this is telling me, I mean, these people have no reason to BS me.
Sure.
You know, so
Yeah.
obviously, you know, this stuff might not be for everybody,
Right.
but I'll tell you, for the majority of people that are willing to give it a try, you know, it's not going to hurt them.
We've heard how people have come off of, the number one thing is blood pressure medications. They've been able to
Yes.
stop
You're
taking
talking
their,
to a potential client now.
They've been talking about.
I'm not far
Yeah.
behind you, so.
And I think it's like the full spectrum CBD. Your body is made up of, it has its own, I always say this wrong, cannabinoid system.
Okay.
Okay. So when you take the CBD, whether it's a full spectrum or whether it's a general CBD, it attaches the different CBDs, because there's CBD, there's CBA, CBG. Anyway, without getting into all of that, it attaches to those different system points
Receptors.
in your body, the receptors, thank you.
Yeah.
And it kind of like fills the gaps in that receptor that helps heal your body. And there's been several people that have come off of blood pressure medication. It's helped, we've heard stories about how it's helping with seizures with a child here
I've
locally.
read stories about the seizures
So-
and for years. That
I
is
mean-
not new. And I remember reading this one particular story about a young girl that was having to travel across state lines to buy legal products, you know.
Correct.
So, and I thought of that, and I thought of, are you kidding me?
Right.
That was my
Yeah.
honest reaction. Are you kidding
And
me?
that's
All the
our
things- All the
reaction.
things that you can buy at the drugstore on a prescription that
Exactly.
will take the bottom of your shoes off as you drop it in your mouth, you know. We can't figure out how to get this into a regulated, safe, legal way. But the good news is here in Kansas, we're on the path.
Yes,
Correct. We
Yes,
are. We are.
We are anxious to see the commercial hemp farming should be legal first of the year. We're waiting on the FDA and the USDA to come out with their proposal, and then once that happens, Kansas will adopt whatever the federal laws are going to be.
Okay.
So we'll be governed by those. So, you know, but I mean, I think the state of Kansas, and from everything that we've seen from the Kansas Department of Agriculture, I mean, they want us to succeed.
They do.
I think
I
that's
mean, they
true,
are
too.
giving.
They
I
do.
mean, yes, the hoops and the way the licensing all kind of played out this year put us farmers a little behind the ball. I
Right.
mean, as far as timing, but I think that was due to. I mean, there was just so much interest.
So both what I've read prior and some of the stuff that Tina sent me, I can tell the people watching at home that the regulations surrounding the security of your crop, who can touch it, who can be around it.
Correct.
This is as tight as it gets, really. So you have to be background checked, fingerprints. Nobody can touch that crop except the people on the license, and the people on the license are put through the ringer.
Correct.
So nobody has to do that to raise corn,
No.
Right.
to be shipped to Atchison, to get
Right.
turned into 200 proof alcohol, right?
Right. You
bet,
We don't
you
have to
bet.
do that.
No.
So this is highly regulated, but that ensures a good industrial application of it. Because
does.
they've started at the right place. They've started at a place where they can allay the fears of the citizenry. They can ensure that the growers are complying with reasonable law, and then they can loosen as we prove the concept. And I think we're on
Right.
that path.
Right.
We are. I mean, we're doing it right, and and that's the most important thing that I think is going to, be our success. Doing it right, and I'm following the laws, and they are getting better. They will be less stringent, but I mean, everybody that does touch it, even when it does go commercial, has to be on the license. They won't necessarily have to be fingerprinted, background checked, but they will need to be, I mean, on the license, and which is good. And which
that's
is,
all good.
Which for us farmers and processors, us being processors as well, you know, it's very easy to do. I mean, we have our group of people, and we can make sure.
And I
that,
think, as being processors, it's good to have those regulations because we know what we're getting from the farmer then is hemp. We're not getting something else. We're
Oh gosh, we're down to 2 minutes. I told you, Dave, we're going to stretch that 2 minutes. So, I saw you had about 2.5 acres standing when I went out there.
Yes, we did. Yes,
you said you planted 10 twice. Well, normal farming, you had 2.5 standing.
Correct.
So, and the day I was supposed to come visit you and inspect your farm for this program, the forecast and the weather went to under 32 degrees that night. So you guys spent that afternoon and evening doing what?
Harvesting.
With your 9600 John Deere combine, I think.
No, with a couple mules and a couple trailers and a couple gentlemen with weed eaters with little saw blades.
Oh, really?
On them and just going along and buzzing along, and it couldn't have been more perfect for the way the year had gone. It was the wind had just changed out of the north. It was blowing 30, 40 mile an hour across this open field, misting heavily, and everybody racing against time to get them all hung up. And so it kind of threw us off our game, but I mean, everybody got it done.
Okay,
you know,
so I know we're out of time, so you won't even have time to defend yourself from this comment. So this is Tina Kelly and Jeff Wilkins, and they are the pioneers of the hemp operations in Dickinson County, Kansas. There's only a few people doing this here. You know, isn't that the history of Kansas? The people who took a risk got started, and we all have this because of it. So good luck to you.
Thanks
for sharing your
Thank you.
vision with me and the viewers. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
My name's Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Broadband. Glad to have you with us today. Have a great day.